What if the biggest thing shaping your life right now isn't your talent, your luck, or even your habits, but the picture you keep running in your mind? That sounds almost too simple, I know. But I've found that once you understand how visualization and expectation setting work together, you start to see something wild. Your mind is constantly rehearsing your future before your body ever lives it. And that's where everything changes. Because most people think they're reacting to life, but in reality, they're often reacting to an internal script they didn't even realize was there. A mental model, a private prediction machine. And if that prediction machine keeps expecting failure, stress, rejection, or lack, guess what it keeps finding? More of the same. Now here's where it gets interesting. Your subconscious mind doesn't really care whether the mental images you feed it are real in the moment. It responds to repetition, emotion, and certainty. So when you visualize a future with clarity and pair it with a strong expectation that it's possible, your mind starts treating that future like a familiar destination. That's powerful, because thoughts really do become things in the sense that repeated thoughts shape emotions, emotions shape decisions, decisions shape behaviors, and behaviors over time shape the life you live. So if you've ever wondered why some people seem to move through life with this calm, almost magnetic confidence, while others feel stuck in the same cycles, this is part of the answer. They're not necessarily luckier. They've often trained their minds to expect different outcomes. Let me tell you why this matters. A lot of people use visualization wrong. They imagine the result, but they don't feel it. Or they try to force positive thinking while secretly expecting everything to fall apart. And the subconscious is clever. It notices the mismatch. It believes the deeper pattern, not the louder words. That's why expectation setting is so important. Visualization shows the mind the destination. Expectation tells the mind, this is normal. This is where we're going. Together, they begin to reprogram your mental model. You stop seeing success as this strange, distant event for other people. You start seeing it as part of your identity. And once identity shifts, behavior follows. Think about it like this. If your mental model says, I'm someone who always struggles, your mind will filter every event through that lens. A delay becomes proof. A setback becomes proof. Even neutral situations get interpreted as confirmation that life is hard. But if your mental model says, I am learning, I am capable, I can adapt, I can create momentum, then the same events mean something completely different. A setback becomes feedback. A delay becomes a redirection. A challenge becomes training. That's cognitive reframing in action. This is one of the most underrated skills in personal growth, because life doesn't just happen to you. It gets interpreted by you first. The meaning you assign to events becomes the emotional reality you live inside. So what does this actually mean in real life? It means you don't just ask, what do I want? You also ask, what do I expect? Because desire without expectation is fragile. It sounds nice, but it doesn't have enough nervous system support to become consistent action. The subconscious mind loves certainty. It likes patterns. It likes what feels familiar. So if your internal world is filled with doubt, even your goals can start to feel threatening. Success can feel uncomfortable if your identity isn't ready for it yet. Have you ever noticed that? Sometimes people say they want change, but when change starts showing up, they sabotage it. Why? Because the mind is trying to restore familiarity. The old mental model feels safer than the unknown, even if the old model is miserable. That's why reprogramming yourself isn't just about hype. It's about repetition with emotional realism. I'm not talking about pretending everything is perfect. That usually backfires. I'm talking about building a believable bridge between where you are and where you want to go. For example, instead of saying, I am instantly fearless and everything is easy, try something like, I am becoming the kind of person who handles this better every day. See the difference? One statement might feel fake. The other gives your subconscious something it can actually work with. It creates an expectation of growth, and growth is something the mind can accept. And that's the sweet spot. Visualization works best when it's specific. Not vague daydreaming, not random fantasy. I'm talking about seeing the scene, hearing the sounds, feeling the environment. Not just I want to be successful, but I can see myself walking into that room calm, prepared, and certain. The more sensory detail you add, the more real it becomes to the brain. Now, this doesn't mean you sit there imagining the perfect life and wait for magic to happen. No. The real shift happens when visualization changes your internal state, and that new state changes your choices. You start noticing opportunities you would have ignored. You speak differently. You carry yourself differently. You tolerate less. You commit more. That's how the subconscious helps create the life you want. Not by doing the work for you, but by shaping the lens through which you decide what's possible. And let me be real with you for a second. This isn't always comfortable, because if you've spent years identifying with stress, scarcity, failure, or self-doubt, then a healthier mental model can feel unfamiliar at first, even uncomfortable. Sometimes people mistake unfamiliarity for falsehood. They think, this feels weird, so it must not be me. But that's exactly how change often feels at the beginning. A new belief feels awkward before it feels natural. A new expectation feels fragile before it feels solid. But if you keep returning to it, the mind starts to organize around it. This is why consistency matters more than intensity. A 5-minute visualization done daily with real feeling and clear expectation can be far more powerful than an occasional dramatic session when you're emotionally charged. Why? Because the subconscious learns from what you repeatedly inhabit, not what you occasionally visit. So if you want to reprogram your mental model, start small and stay faithful. Visualize not just the outcome, but the version of you who can hold that outcome. See yourself as the person who follows through, the person who stays calm under pressure, the person who expects good things and prepares intelligently. That identity shift is everything. Because once you begin to expect better, you behave better. And once you behave better, your results start changing. Usually, not all at once, but steadily, quietly, then suddenly. That's the kicker. Most people are looking for a dramatic breakthrough, but the real transformation often happens in the invisible layer first, in your thoughts, in your assumptions, in the tiny decisions that come from a new internal standard. You stop asking, can I do this? And start asking, how do I do this well? You stop rehearsing worst-case scenarios and start rehearsing success. You stop treating peace like a luxury and start treating it like a skill. And the more you do that, the more your subconscious begins to believe, this is who we are now. That's reprogramming. So if you've been stuck in the same cycles, I want you to consider this. Maybe you don't need a completely different life before you become a different person. Maybe you need a different mental model first, a new expectation, a new internal image, a new way of speaking to yourself when nobody else is around. Because thoughts are things, not in some mystical, magical sense only, but in the very practical sense that they build the framework of your reality. What you picture becomes what you prepare for. What you expect becomes what you notice. What you repeatedly imagine becomes what you begin to live. So start today. Be intentional. Picture the version of you that's already moving in the right direction. Set expectations that support growth instead of fear. And keep returning to that inner image until it starts to feel normal. That's how the subconscious mind becomes an ally instead of an obstacle. And if this hits something deep for you, don't just nod and move on. Try it tonight. Close your eyes for a few minutes and visualize one thing you want with total clarity. Then tell yourself calmly and confidently, this is possible. This is what I'm growing into. Do that consistently and watch what happens. Because the life you want doesn't start when everything outside of you changes. It starts when the picture inside of you finally does.